to focus on the nuances of language and trying to convey these ideas. I've heard you refer to consciousness as eternal and infinite, which is something I agree with. But when, again, in usual everyday language, if you state that, it sounds like a kind of, it could sound like a kind of a supernatural claim of it being physically, extended throughout every, and I know, I think it's worth clarifying precisely what is meant by that.
Yes. Of course, for a mind that only knows objective experience, and all objective experience by definition is finite. The idea of the eternal or the infinite is something so far beyond. The finite mind cannot even imagine the eternal or the infinite simply by virtue of the fact that it imposes its own finite limitations on everything that it imagines. So yes, the eternal and the infinite are the finite mind cannot even go there. But and so, as you say, they sound exotics. They seem to belong to some supernatural realm to which we have no contact or no. The opposite is the truth. The word infinite just means not finite. It's not. Eternal just means not in time. So infinite, a less exotic or supernatural sounding word than infinite would simply be unlimited. Or eternal would simply mean ever present, not always present in time, but ever present now. And it's very easy to check this in your experience. If I were to ask you now, describe your current thought, or the sensation of your legs on the chair, or the sight of your room, you would easily describe all these objects, and your description would describe their limited qualities. I was thinking of breakfast this morning. I wasn't thinking about dinner last night. They would all be limited. But if I were to ask you, okay, describe what it is that is aware of your experience, what would you say? We've already ascertained that there is something, let's just call it something, that is aware. So we've established the presence of that which is aware. We now want to explore its nature. So we know that it is present and it is aware. Tell us more about it from your experience.
Yeah, I think it's these might come across as synonyms for aware, because I think it's largely featureless apart from kind of a luminosity.
Okay. It's featureless, yes. It's luminous. That's, as you say, a synonym. It illuminates or knows experience, but it's featureless. Perfect. It's featureless, which means there's nothing to perceive there. It's featureless. It means it's objectless. And if it's objectless or featureless, what is the validity to our belief that it is limited, given that any limit must be objective? And if any of your viewers, indeed, if any of the 7 billion of us had just conducted the experiment, as long as they, of course, understood what we were, our language, if any of the 7 billion of us had conducted this experiment, what is the nature of that with which I am aware of objective experience? We would very quickly come to the same. Most people would go silent. In other words, they wouldn't be able to find a suitable word to describe it. Why? Because our language has evolved to describe the objective content of experience. Our language is very good at describing chairs and books and tables, but there is no language. As you say, it's featureless. That is why the images that are sometimes used to evoke it are silence, transparency, empty, still, motion. These are all, they're not accurate words, but they somehow try to evoke in the listener this featureless, qualitylessness presence of awareness. That's just another way of saying it's unlimited or infinite. So far from being a word that describes some exotic supernatural phenomenon, it is actually everybody's experience that their own being is without limits and ever present.